Welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 121. This is a cultural commentary, or Dragonfire number 11. A Patriot looks at the future of America. Around patriotic holidays, I'll usually post a cultural commentary, a book review, or a whiskey review about something patriotic. Today, I'm looking at what seems to be in our near future. Now, I'm no prophet. I certainly don't know the future. Only God knows that. But I can look at trends and evidence and make an informed guess that may or may not be right. So first of all, let's talk about America's spiritual health. Now, God is sovereign and can bring about revival or judgment whenever he sees fit. But I've believed for about 30 years or so that America is under the judgment of God. God's most common forms of judgment include allowing a people to drift more and more into sin and letting that sin take its natural course. And sin has natural consequences. So it doesn't have to be anything dramatic and miraculous like you'd read about with the plagues on Egypt in the book of Exodus. No, we can look at the shrinking of conservative churches and denominations. We can look at the rise of the nones, those who mark that they have no religious preference on government forms or surveys and such. We can look at the rise in perversion, increasing numbers of the alphabet soup crowd, drag shows, porn in public school libraries and classrooms. The rise in crimes. I mean, look at the rioting, the looting, the flash mob theft, etc. in America's Democratic Party controlled cities and states. All of this is increasing rapidly. As private and public faith declines, so do basic honesty, ethics, morals. Spiritually, America has been declining for some time, and I expect it to get worse. I do not expect a revival until we hit bottom. My own denomination, the Southern Baptist Convention, has been in decline for some time. We're about to fragment. There are various factions that are going to split the denomination. We're losing conservative churches in a dribble out one end and more liberal churches on the other end. There are clear signs that the SBC is going woke, despite what leadership says. And that means basically that in the colleges and the seminaries of the SBC, they're adopting a worldly view, CRT, critical race theory, and becoming communist in some ways. Another form of God's common judgment is allowing a people to choose bad leaders. America has had a string of bad presidents, bad senators and congressmen, governors, mayors, and city councils, with disastrous effects, I might say. Even the presidents I can halfway respect made some disastrous decisions, and that's common. I mean, you're not going to get everything right. But then looking at the president of today, Biden, perhaps the worst of the lot. God gives evil rulers to an evil, unrepentant people. So let's talk now about America's political health. I've said repeatedly since the 2020 election that Biden will not serve out his full term. His current scandals are now, finally, being covered by the leftist news media just in the past couple of weeks. Why the sudden change in news coverage? Did they just now see the evidence? Why did they all come out with the stories at the same time? Whoever the powers that be who tell the news media what to put out, and I think that happens. Obama maybe, George Soros, the inner group of the Democrat Party, they've all made a decision that it's time for Biden to go. And they gave the word to the news media. They all simultaneously began attacking Biden. Odd, that. At the very least, I think Biden will be forced to bow out of the 2024 race. But I actually think they're going to force him to step aside before his term is up due to health issues, which we are already aware of and have been since the campaign of 2019. I think they're going to use the 25th Amendment. Or they'll put enough pressure on him to where he'll resign. But what does that do? Well, this makes Kamala Harris president of the United States. And see, that's the insurance policy. That's why they may not do it. I don't think they're going to have a choice. I mean, Biden's getting so bad, and the scandals are getting so bad, they may not have a choice. And so, they put Kamala Harris in there because she's a woman and black or something. And so there you go. When you do that kind of a choice for vice president, then you're stuck. So if she gets to pick a new vice president, who will be the chosen one to be the next president? It won't be the feckless Kamala. No. I think the issue then with Harris would be, let's give a quick pardon to the Biden family, the whole family. But who's that vice president going to be for Kamala? Governor Newsom, I think, or possibly Governor Whitmer out of Michigan. Could be Michelle Obama. Imagine that. Those are my top 3 guesses right there. With all the bribery evidence and espionage evidence coming out, you would think an impeachment would be presented, but the House, though it's controlled by the GOP by like a 3-vote margin, I don't think they'll actually pass an impeachment vote, even though it requires just a simple majority, because Republicans are invertebrates by nature. They have no spine. So I don't think that's going to happen. And even if they did do it, the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. Thank you, all you Georgia voters who failed in your job. So the Senate's controlled by the Democrats, and they wouldn't even consider it. So I think Biden gets off scot-free. Trump, on the other hand, will be tied up in court up to the elections, and he will likely be convicted, appeal, but he'll be sent to prison. But that doesn't prohibit him from getting elected. Surprise, a felony doesn't prevent you from becoming president. So it would end up in a constitutional crisis if Trump was to get elected from prison or with a criminal conviction, even up for appeal. But I also think that RFK Jr. could possibly get the Democrat nomination as a reaction against Biden and the establishment. And both RFK Jr. and Trump, though, because they are anti-establishment in a strong way, I think they're likely candidates for the Epstein-JFK treatment by the powers that be, since both candidates are hugely popular and anti-establishment. So I don't think, if Trump was to win the election, I don't think he would serve. I think the deep state would take care of it. You see, the deep state will never allow another anti-establishment candidate to gain office. Never. I said it after the 2020 election. No Republican or conservative will ever be elected again. I think the system is broken. It's game over. The Dems have gamed it. It's become too corrupt. So, yeah, pessimistic me, right? Third, military health. I've seen story after story over several years, but recently, in recent months, of the recruiting crisis in the military. Now, this is for several reasons. A, there's a long-term decline in patriotism due to the anti-American teaching in public schools and the university system, and Holly Weird. B, the infusion of critical theory, which is Marxism, in the universities and the military academies has seeped into the military, the officer corps, as well as enlisted ranks over the last 40 years. The officer corps is definitely woke. I've got inside connections in the military, and that's what I'm hearing, as well as all the evidence that I can read and see. When confronted by this in congressional hearings that I watched, General Milley said, "No, we aren't woke. I don't know where you get that from." He was less than honest, or clueless, or both. See, George W. Bush allowed us to get into a forever war with no clear plan to win, with bad intelligence, and that spent the military, jacked up our deficit, and it has almost broken the military. People don't want to join the military if we are not winners, and if there is the threat of endless, pointless wars going on forever and ever. Biden's stunning retreat from Afghanistan was awful for morale, but we really have not actually won a war since World War II. Oh, wait a minute, what about the Gulf War? We didn't really win that, we settled it, okay? We left Hussein in power, and then we had to go back in 10 years later. Well, didn't we win the second Iraq war? Well, sort of, but not really. I mean, that again is a mess still over there. They're certainly not a strong ally in any way, shape, or form, and Islamic terrorism has not been solved. ISIS has not been solved. Al Qaeda has not been solved. So, is that a win? I don't think so. D. American kids are fat, out of shape, drugged up, and weak emotionally. Only about 20% of 18 to 25-year-olds are actually eligible to serve in the military because the other 80% are fat, out of shape, drugged up, emotionally weak, and have criminal records. This is because of weak families, weak communist-influenced schools, and weak churches. There's a spiritual source to this anti-patriotism. Okay, we will likely be at World War III with China before the elections of 2024. Many experts are saying, well, 2025 to 2027. I think it's going to be sooner. So, fourth, World War III. The war with China will be devastating to our military, our homeland, the economy, civilization, and the world. Did you know the PRC, that's People's Republic of China, already has thousands of combatants inside America now, with a wide variety of missions of attacking our infrastructure once they get the signal, once the war starts? Many students and businessmen here from China are wonderful people, but many others have undercover jobs to do, and the open southern border allowed many thousands more to come in unchecked. The open border on the southern side didn't just let desperate Central Americans and South Americans in who want jobs. No, it let people from all the countries of the world. Iran, Pakistan, China, okay, none of which are our friends. So it's going to get ugly all over when those secret cells get their mission and start engaging in war here on our soil. Economically, also, everything we get from China will stop, and we're the biggest trading partner with China. And they're ours. I mean, it's amazing. If you try to find anything made in America, it's always made in China. Even our drugs, pharmaceuticals, medicines, antibiotics, made in China. So you want to see what's going to happen there if we go to war? Drugs all of a sudden stop flowing, people die, the price of drugs increases by tenfold. That's what's going to happen. It'll be economic suicide for China as well because we're their biggest trading partner. But guess what? This is what people don't understand about communism. If you've not studied communism, there's a tendency in America to think the rest of the world thinks like us. And they don't. The communists don't mind destroying their own country if it destroys us. They don't care. I mean, I've read how China fought Japan in World War II. They will do whatever it takes to win, including killing hundreds of thousands of their own people. Okay, that's just history. So the communists don't mind that kind of self-destruction. Now, you thought COVID caused disruptions in the supply chain? Oh, just wait for this. And then when China attacks Taiwan, guess what the North Koreans are going to do? They'll attack South Korea and Japan and our bases in Guam and Japan and Philippines. Don't forget the Chinese now also have a base in Cuba where they will soon be positioning missiles, I'm sure. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis of '62? Of course you don't, unless you're my age or older. This will be worse. If we attack their base in Cuba, which I don't think Biden, Harris, Obama would ever do, the Tricoms will blame the war on us and attack Taiwan. And then it's our fault. When the war starts, the first attacks will be cyber war. They're going to do everything on our grid they can on the internet to disrupt life and everything. And then they'll shoot down our satellites, okay, because they have that capability. They will also, think about this, pre-position cargo ships in our ports because, they'll know, okay, we're going to do this in a month. And so they load up their ships and send them to our ports. They don't offload until they get the signal. There you go. You've got artillery, you've got surface-to-air missiles, you've got guys with machine guns. That, you think that won't happen? I've read enough military history and enough. It's going to happen. Okay. And so, the port areas will be attacked. It's not going to go nuclear at first. They'll try to keep it conventional, but Korea is kind of the wild card. You don't know what that crazy fat guy is going to do. And don't underestimate our corrupt government with China Joe at the helm. If he's still in office, he could cut a deal, surrender, and then require Americans to turn in their guns as a condition of peace. Right. As a condition of the PRC giving us a vaccine to cure the next plague they unleash on us. Have you thought about that? See, COVID-19 came from a military biolab in Wuhan. I've said this since the beginning of the plague. Got told to shut up about it from various sources. Well, that was the beta, okay, the test. That was a test run. The real thing will have a much higher mortality rate than COVID-19 ever thought about. And they'll have the vaccine already ready. And so surrender and we'll give you the vaccine, right? We learned nothing from 9/11. Where people violated our freedom. They came in, they trained in our schools, and then they carried out the missions. We learned nothing from that. Americans are not the most, we have an open society because we're a democratic republic. And so we have this optimistic view of world nature, of the nature of human beings, which is totally unfounded. But we do practice openness, and so we look on the good side, and so we've been foolish. We failed to learn that the rest of the world pretty much hates us and wants us dead. All right, conclusion. Am I a doom and gloom guy or what? I wish I could be optimistic. Cheers. Notice this is a Shiner. This made in Texas. This is not a Bud Light. Bud Light can just die. Okay, but folks, our only hope, our only chance is a massive turning to Jesus in repentance and faith. God may yet stay his hand of judgment. He may give us another chance because his grace is amazing. But we must humble ourselves and pray and seek God's face and turn from our wicked ways. Now, there are some positive signs, as angry parents are now pressuring public and private schools to address their corrupt curriculum, library books, communist teachers. There's finally an awakening against the alphabet soup folks who chant, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." The boycott against Bud Light, Disney, and Target is having an effect. So I think people are finally awakening, finally concerned enough to take action. So, there's a little positive side here, but is it enough? Man, until our churches are filled up with people crying out to God for mercy, I don't know. See, you can have a conservative response to all this negative stuff that's going on, but that's not repentance. Political conservative responses are good. I pray for that. But what's needed is repenting of sin and trusting in Christ and following him in discipleship. That's what's needed. Well, despite how far America has fallen, I can joyfully celebrate our national birthday tomorrow, July 4th, 2023, because I know the history of our country, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and remember what it was like when I was a kid. So I have a dream for what it can be once again. So have a happy Independence Day. Pray for America to repent and for our political leaders to wake up. This is Stab the Dragon, out here.